Let's talk about families, kinship, and descent. This is the final module where we talk again about you in terms of your social identity, and that's how other people perceive you, feel about you, and relate to you, and your self-identity, which is your conception of yourself. And this week, we're talking about how those things are shaped and influenced by kinship. So, a definition for kinship. It's a web of relationships in which people consider themselves related to each other socially and biologically. There's specific rules about who is related and how closely, and those things vary widely. Culture, and not biology, defines whom our closest relatives are. Cultures call attention to kinship relationships through how they speak to one another. There are two categories with regard to this: terms of reference and terms of address. Terms of reference describe the relationship between individuals such as mother, grandfather, or father's brother. While terms of address are those things that people use to speak directly to their kin, such as mom, uncle, and grandpa. We've already defined kinship, culturally recognized ties between members of a family, and there are some distinctions here. They're both blood or consanguineal, and marriage, being related to someone by marriage. And there's also fictive kinship, and those are when we choose people as family members. We talk about in terms of godparents, or people may oftentimes refer to someone as a play brother or play sister, play cousin, and even people who are members of fraternities and sororities, for example, will refer to one another as brother and sister, and in religious organizations as well. Those would be examples of fictive kinship. Descent is how people reckon their kinship, and we'll talk more about that. A unilineal descent pattern would be tracing the relationship through only one gender. Patrilineal would be through the male line, matrilineal through the female line. And a lineage is a continuous line of descent from an original ancestor. So people ask about a clan. The major difference between a clan and a lineage is that the common ancestor of a clan lived so far in the past that people can't precisely explain it. They know that there's a common ancestor. Oftentimes that ancestor is represented by a totem. You might have a bear clan. You might have a clan of a deer or owl or other things that represent that common ancestor. Talking more about descent patterns, ambilineal descent is a flexible descent rule where neither the male nor female line is the absolute. It's flexible. Cognatic descent is tracing descent through either the male or female, where bilateral descent is tracing descent equally through both the male and female line. And this is the one that is most practiced in the West, in particular in the United States. These are just some diagrams of kinship. When we look at a matrilineage, and we see that in the case of the matrilineage, it's following the mother's line. And in this case, the mother's brother is the cultural father because he is from the ego's lineage. A patrilineage in which the ego traces their lineage only through the father's side of the family. And the bilateral lineage traces both sides, again, which many people in the United States are familiar with, tracing both the mother's side of the family and the father's side of the family. Talking about the rights, responsibilities, statuses, and roles in family. The words for family members like mother or cousin indicate rights and responsibilities of family members both in the family and they're also recognized in the community. Status refers to a culturally designated position that a person occupies in a particular setting. So a person could be within their family at the same time the father, but when they are among their siblings, they are also could be a younger brother. And then a role is a set of behaviors expected of a person who occupies a particular status. Lineage, as we mentioned, is descent from a common ancestor. Matrilineage having to do with descent does not mean matriarchal, which has to do with power. There are a couple of examples. The Nair of southern India, the men and women did not live together after marriage, and their husbands were not seen as relatives because they were not part of the matrilineage. Talking about nuclear and extended families, the nuclear family is composed of two parents and their immediate offspring. The family of orientation is the family in which one is born and grows up in. And the family of procreation is formed when one marries and has children. In most societies, relationships with nuclear family members take precedent over relations with other kin. And as we talk more about lineages, clans, and residence rules, these are residence rules, we're talking about here patriarchality, where a married couple lives with the husband's father. Matrilocality is where a married couple lives with the wife's family. The most prevalent residence pattern in the U.S. is a family of procreation living neolocally. And neolocality is the case of married couples who may live hundreds of miles from their parents. An extended family household, an expanded family household with 3 or more generations. Within stratified nations, value systems and kinship can vary from class to class.